everyone. Welcome to the Mango Publishing Heart Wisdom panel. I'm Sherry Reichert-Ballou, author of Say It Now, 33 Creative Ways to Say I Love You to the Most Important People in Your Life. And oh my goodness, I'm so happy to be joined by Angela and Nita and Brenda. And we are going to have an amazing conversation today about grateful no matter what. And I think this is the perfect time, and it's a super big topic. And before we launch in, and I have Angela, Nita, and Brenda introduce themselves. Nita, who wrote the Make Every Move a Meditation book, is going to gift us with a short meditation. Thank you, Nita.
Thank you, Sherry, and great to see everyone. I'm going to start with a stillness meditation. Most of what I write about is meditation in motion, but let's do something still, because the truth is when you keep the body still, then it makes it easier for the mind to calm. So wherever you're probably sitting while you're watching this, just notice your feet on the floor and your butt in the chair. If you're sitting, you probably are sitting in the chair. And you can close your eyes if you'd like to. It's best if they're relaxed, so maybe looking down and unfocused, your gaze just kind of easy if you keep them open. And just notice the contact points of where your body touches anything that you can sense it touching. Again, it could be your feet on the floor, your behind in the chair, maybe your back against the back of the chair, and just be with that for a minute, however it is. And then notice if there's any tension. If you're holding your toes maybe a little bit curled, or maybe your back is flexed in some way, or any part of you that feels a little tight or tense. Just notice if that is present. For example, my hands are in my lap, and I just noticed that my right hand is almost in a fist, and that's not necessary. So I'm just noticing that. And if you can let those parts relax, do so, but don't force it. Just notice it, because sometimes the awareness is all you need, and it will do it on its own. And then, in keeping with our topic of grateful no matter what, notice if anything comes to mind when I say that phrase, grateful no matter what. Does anything arise? And just let that be. And if you're in a mood and nothing comes to mind, then let that be too.
Mm-hmm.
And then just feel how that phrase, where that settles in your body. If that, some of us are heart-centered, some of us are more brain-centered or intellectual, others of us are more body-centered. So notice if there's a place in your body where the idea of gratitude sits. And with all of that, just bring yourself back to our little group here and gently open your eyes if they've been closed. And we'll just continue with that awareness that this is in our body, this is in our hearts, This is in our minds. It's all here. So thank you, Sherry. Thanks for the opportunity to lead.
Nita, that was beautiful. Thank you, especially for the permission you gave us, right? I love that it's like we get to have the feelings we have, we get to have the thoughts or no thoughts. That was a big gift. Thank you. And I just want to say, because it's top of my mind, thanks to Nita, that it's like when you asked us, grateful no matter what immediately dropped in, I thought this, like, it's all like being able to be a part of a community, you three at the moment, but Mango in general, of support and love, so that even when I go through really hard times, which I have gone through recently, like Mango and Mango's authors have been here. And I don't say that in a cheesy way or like a, like it's true. It's true. And so I'm grateful to be here and looking forward to our conversation. I'm going to start, Angela, with you. And I see your beautiful book in the background. I'm hoping you'll hold it up for us if you feel like it. But I'd love to have you just give us a little bit of an introduction. And in doing so, if you want to just address what came up for you when Nita said, grateful no matter what.
Okay, well, I'm Angela LoMenzo, and I am the author of Wisdom of Wildly Creative Women. I always have it over my shoulders. When you said grateful no matter what and what came to mind, it's very similar to what you said in the sense that the mango energy is here right now. And I was just feeling so grateful first to be here with all you brilliant women, because I have so much respect for your work, but most of all your hearts, because they're just so beautiful and all your work is centered there and to help others. And Mango in general, that's what they do. That's why I wanted so desperately to be with Mango. And when you said that during the meditation, it took me back to the pandemic when I first discovered Heart Wisdom Panel and how much it helped me through that time. And I was sitting there for a moment going, wow. And now I'm here as a Mango author. Stop. So I'm extremely grateful.
Oh, Angela, that was so beautiful. And I know we're going to get to hear a little bit from your book in a while. So I'm also really excited about that. So wonderful. Nita, tell us a little bit about you as an author and answering your own question.
Yes, well, it's similar to what Angela said, but I have so much gratitude, especially for Brenda, because she did pull plucked my first book, Depression Hates a Moving Target, out of the slush pile, which is like winning the lottery after many, many years of trying and many, many pitches of just that book after many other books that, didn't make the cut. And so I would say she feels like a bit like a fairy godmother because she just waved her. It didn't happen that way at all, but it very much feels like she waved her magic wand and poof, I'm an author. So, but what Angela talked about, the mango energy. I'm going to say this. If anybody has seen the Barbie movie and there's, Kenergy, have you seen any of that? I mean, mango, we have like manganergy. I know we need a word. I don't have the word, but there is something because of the people who work at Mango, Brenda especially. I've met Chris. Many of the people that work at Mango, they just have these huge hearts, good intentions, and it shows. It just shows. It shows in the books that they produce, the care with which they do it, and the things they put out in the world. So that probably was the first thing. And then I also, not to toot my own horn, but the idea of letting myself have some pushback to gratitude sometimes, because the force, anytime it's like, well, you should be grateful, then I get that kind of thing. And so that's sort of why I said, well, and if that doesn't come up for you, because there are days when it doesn't come up for me, and it's really much more likely that I will end up grateful if I just let myself kind of go through that not gratefulness, and not feel as if I have to fake it or anything like that, because it's always there. I just have to look for it. I have to, kind of turn my lens that way. And sometimes the lens is cloudy. So that was the other thing, was just that idea that we have all the emotions, and some days are tougher than others, and that I'm grateful for all of that, the whole milieu, and the fact that Mango's there for that too. I mean, I've never had anybody at Mango say, well, you should be this or you should be that. It's just the opposite. They're like, who are you? Who are you really? That's what I feel from them, especially Brenda.
And Nita, that's what you gave us, I think, in that meditation. I felt that, like, just sort of like, who are you showing up today? And I had something funny drop in when you were just saying that about, like, it's true. Some days we just don't feel grateful, and giving ourselves that permission. And I had a little side door open when you said that, which is that sometimes I'll say to myself, like, I'm grateful to you, self, for not making me feel grateful today. And it's a little bit of a, it's just that sort of thing of like, we can be grateful, for permission that we give ourselves. That's what dropped in for me. So Miss Brenda, hello, hello.
Hello. Well, what came up for me when thinking about grateful no matter what is that I'm so blessed to have work that I love, and that I get to work with interesting people, wildly creative women. And how I was reminded of that, like over the Thanksgiving weekend, is that my I was more social than usual, like seeing people I haven't seen for a while, and people usually start talking about their work, and like, I listen to them, and like they're basically complaining, they're not happy. And then my best friend works at Google, and like she makes piles of money. She has a great job. They really do give them free food and everything like that. And she and I get together usually once a week for dinner, and the dinner is like 3/4 of her complaining, and then at the end I'll be talking about the books I'm just acquired and excited about, and and this book is going to be a book that saves lives, and this book actually already saved 8 lives that we know of. And so I'm profoundly grateful to have work that I love. I'm very, very lucky, and I wish that for everyone. I really do. And one of the things that my best friend complains about at Google is that she's not a teenager. She's a woman of a certain age like me, but most of her coworkers and all of her bosses are in some cases like much younger than her, and so she has to navigate this minefield of like different cultures. And so I usually bring at least one Mango book, and like we'll give it to her, like, and say like, this might help you with your issues, this might help you like talking to your boss that's half your age. Like and so like she actually has become like a Mango like reader, and like will give me feedback and like do reviews and things like that. And then she actually pointed out, like, you're really lucky that like you get to do exactly, like, some all the people I know, like you're doing exactly what you were meant to do.
Oh,
That's fabulous.
that is so fabulous.
Wow.
Oh, I love this. I'm feeling uplifted already, which I love. And you guys, I wanted to sort of start or continue this conversation from Brenda knows, because she was at our last Heart Wisdom panel. We were talking about healing emotional trauma. And I feel like I really would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge right now Kim Colgrove, who is another Mango author who's just amazing, talked about secondary trauma and what's going on right now in the world because of the wars and the shootings and the trauma that may not be happening to us, but it's happening to other people, and it may be happening to us too. And I was thinking, in light of what we're talking about today, that a couple of things. One is, it can be hard to be grateful when there's so much grief in the world. And the other thing is that I thought is sometimes it can be hard to be grateful if we feel guilty because that grief is so powerful. So I just wanted to open with that because I think that what Kim was saying about secondary trauma is impacting gratitude. And I'm just curious if any of you have anything that you want to talk about along those lines.
Well, I can speak to that. I know that I have had to be very selective about what I watch and what I it's that, there's that cartoon about, or maybe it's a bumper sticker about, if you're not outraged, you're not informed, or something like that. Because it's like, there's this balance between wanting to know what's going on and being re-traumatized from, whether it's, I've never been in a war, but you can have personal wars and they're not the same, but that you can still have trauma. And so, and I see other people around me doing the same thing. I have a really good friend that I talk to a couple times a week, and he's a news hound and always knows what's going on. And he too, and he's, probably in his late 60s, has had to step back. Again, that balance between trying to stay informed so that we know, is there a decision I need to make? Is there a contribution I need to make? Does somebody need help? And finding safe places to help without re-triggering, because I do think it's hard to feel grateful if you're in a state of constant trauma. And so I'm just reflecting that's something that I and my husband have both had taken some action on, to just sort of step back a little bit from a lot of the things that we regularly consume, whether it's news or social media or particular publications, to curate very carefully as a way of self-care, so that we can have gratitude in the rest of our life. I mean, the second person I would always say, I probably should have said him first, sorry, Brenda, but is for my husband. And, if I'm in a state of hyper alertness all the time and so mad at the world, then I can't be present for him or anyone I love. And so it's that balance of being able to do self-care, not to be selfish, but so that I can be present for everybody else in my life. And I'm not, that's what came up when you said that. Because I see it a lot. It's just there right now. And that's where we're at.
I have a suggestion of what to replace watching the news with. HGTV, because seeing like somebody take like a house that's a wreck or should be a tear down and then like fix it up and make it beautiful, there's something just very rewarding. And then it also like sort of like as a gentle reminder, like we can fix messes.
Yes.
Oh,
I love that. Great. Yeah.
I do too. I think you're both pointing to something the same place, which is that it's like, right, when we're in that stress or the hormones of stress and the cortisol or whatever all of that stuff is, it's hard to be present. And I think what you're both pointing to is, how do we get ourselves to that place of presence, which is where we can actually, be grateful and offer gratitude. Angela, what about you? Anything you wanted to add to this?
Well, I agree exactly with Nita and with Brenda. That was a wonderful suggestion, because I do watch HGTV. But for me, there was a time when I was younger where I couldn't separate, and it would infiltrate my entire life. I'd get so empathetic and stressed and worried that my whole life would be affected, my relationships, my health. And it's true, being present in the moment in your own life for a period of time, and then allowing yourself to be informed and to feel and to help and do things that make you feel like you're being proactive in some way to, be there for others who are affected. Because I do have people in my life who are directly affected through family and friends. And so that little part of being there for them, during this time makes me feel like I'm doing something, because I think that's the hardest thing, is sitting there and not feeling like you can do anything, you can't help, and so in some way doing that, I think, helps, and just feeling the emotions for everybody and being informed. But then I'm able now to be present in my own life and also look at life as so precious and turning it inward to what's around us. These little things have changed since then for me, because the simplest things are precious to me right now. And I don't have a need for, boy, what am I going to do tonight? We got to go out Saturday night. We got to go live up the town. No, I just want to be present with my husband, my dog, nature. I'm just feeling this need to really focus on what's around me and, be grateful for it, because so many are going through so much right now. And just being there for others, I think, really does help, feeling proactive in some way, and being in your emotions when you're in them, but to balance it out, like Nita said. And it's made me just more grateful for everything. So like last week, I turned 58. And thank you. And I woke up so different this birthday. It was, and I'd had, since my father passed, we shared the same birthday. And during COVID, I had a sense of sadness these last few birthdays. But this time I woke up differently. I woke up and I was staring at my adorable dog, my adorable husband, and I just felt this overwhelming warmth of how grateful I am to be this at this moment, and my husband goes, what do you want to do today? And I just looked at him, I said, I'm doing it right now. I want to do it. So yes, the simplicity, I think, is definitely what has happened to me lately, is just wanting to just be.
Oh, Angela, I love so much of what you just said. The piece that I want to underscore that I feel is true in my own life and other people that I talk to is that both the pandemic and everything that's happened afterwards and all of the traumas, I think that their unexpected gift has been this appreciation, simply for, and I shouldn't say simply, but the appreciation to love the people around us and our animals and our lives. And there might have been a way that some of us, I know for me, took that for granted, and that there's a way in which it sort of has been illuminated for us that we can't take this for granted, And so I really appreciate what you're saying. It's such a beautiful birthday story, and love to your dad, and I love all of that. I was thinking that one of the other places that can be so hard to find gratitude is in times of death or illness. And I know, Angela, I think you've got something to read to us that might speak to that a bit.
Yes. When I heard the topic was grateful no matter what, and I just thought about this passage right away from chapter 7, which is Nenea Reeves. And it is a passage that is a go-to for me a lot when I am having difficult times in grief, especially with my father's death. And Nenea really helped me from, interviewing her and writing about it, her experience. And her experience was with her husband. So I will read that passage now. Her priorities would change forever when husband Vic was diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer. We were told we had 8 months together, which ended up being only 8 weeks. Because Vic had a dedicated practice of Tibetan Buddhism, he had specific requests that honored those doctrines regarding how he wanted to spend the last weeks of his life. He asked that he only be around joyful energy during his time of transitioning. He believed that if you're surrounded by intense emotions of sorrow, your state of mind at the time of death could become conflicted and bring on feelings of sadness, worry, or even worse, fear, as you move on to your next journey. Vic's last 2 months featured an outpouring of daily love, with visits from family and close friends. Those final weeks with Vic required Nanea to open herself up to an inner strength of spirit that would raise her mindfulness practice to a new level. This life can be very painful, but there's a lot of joy and sublime beauty. I saw this while I was with my husband as he took his last breath. Had I been attached to the emotion of what was happening to me in that moment, I would have fallen into a pit of despair. Because I made a choice to not cave into that and to be present with him, he got to feel the presence of my love, compassion, and support for him. So he could depart here knowing I would be okay, knowing that he was deeply loved. I had so much time afterward to allow myself to feel the pain and loss. That's where meditation can allow you to be present in your life in ways that are more deeply connected. In Vic's final moment, there was a connection we'd never had in our entire relationship. It was so profound and meaningful, and I would have missed it if I had made it about how I was actually feeling and let my emotions overwhelm me.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Wow.
Oh, Angela, thank you. That's so perfect.
Yeah, it was an incredible way to reframe how to look at death for me, because I was so focused on the fact that I wasn't able to be with my father when he passed because of the pandemic, because of all the other, stressful issues around it. But then when I read this from Nanea over and over again, it just really resonated.
Yeah.
And I remembered this moment we had that was so special and precious. And I said, no, that's all that matters.
Oh,
That connection with us in that moment, our energy, the light, it will always be connected. And this reminded me of that. So the fact that Nanea could be so grateful for that in this moment of, absolute, trauma of what was happening. And she just has a beautiful outlook on it, and really powerful woman, really beautiful. So that was mine today. That was the first thing I thought of because it said grateful no matter what. And that, so I went right to that.
well, yeah. And the other piece of that that's coming to my mind, Brenda knows this, that myself and actually another Mango author, Emily Threet, was there last night at a vigil to
Oh, yeah.
just hold the suffering and the pain. And there was a moment at the end where people were posting in the chat the names of their loved ones that they were honoring. And there was so much encouragement and love happening with each post. And that's the gratitude too, right? That gratitude for shared love and shared support that comes from, people were gathered there because of loss. And yet all of the comments at the very end were about like, oh my goodness, I'm so grateful for this connection. I'm so grateful for the collective love. And I think, sometimes we forget when we're in our everyday lives to offer that kind of collective love that we do during grief. So that also came up for me. Nita, Brenda, was there anything for you when you heard Angela's beautiful piece?
I just thought it was so wonderful that her husband was able to say very specifically, like, this is my request, and that they honored it like so completely. I mean, that was like a community response to his request that was like really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really moved by it. I know the practices like the Tibetan practice, she mentioned her mindfulness practice. Those have carried my husband and I through many hard times and many deaths in the past, really 10 years, I would say. And I'm always sad when I hear other people that don't have that kind of thing. It's like whether it's a church practice or whatever it is, some kind of a spiritual practice, or because it's a salve in difficult times. And so that's just what kind of for me was, oh yeah, of course they have those practices, and they were able to rely on that, so they didn't have to go into their small selves when it was so tough, because that's just what we sometimes do. So it was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was just a lovely passage. I'm sorry I hadn't read your book yet. I admired the cover though. It's gorgeous. I'll have to get inside it because it's just as gorgeous inside. I can see that now. So yay.
Nita, there was something that you just said about, gratitude for having those practices, right? Because then we can choose not to come from, the way that you said it, our small selves. And I knew for me what that means, for me, that means kind of the ego or the monkey mind, and just this week, my own spiritual teacher, we were talking about bowing and the power of bowing, which is a gratitude, right? And she said, we can bow even when we don't feel it, right? Because the bow comes from the heart and not from ego. And I just was thinking when you said that, Nita, that it's like the gratitude to know that that we can make these choices. And I'm gonna, sing a song for Mango again, right? That it's the training of ourselves in advance to be able to have these kinds of practices or these tools is so important. And I'm super grateful for that.
Oh, it is. It's so important. I mean, when I had gone through my father's death and the pandemic and all of that, I always had meditation, but I didn't grasp it the way I really wanted to. I couldn't get an actual practice. And I knew I really needed it because I got very dark, very depressed. My husband travels a lot, and he was gone, my daughter was gone, and I was left alone in my grief, and I wasn't doing well. And I said, you know what, you really have to delve deeper into this. And I got my teaching certification in meditation, and I took the whole course because I really wanted to understand it. And for me, I need to get in there and get it. And it enabled me to have a practice. It changed my life completely. And it set me on this whole journey of learning more and more and more. And, I had also tapped into mindfulness, like with the Power of Now and reading multiple books. But I still had a struggle with it, especially years and years of a foundation of anxiety and PTSD and things like that. You kind of struggle with that, like, oh, remember to be mindful. Let me be in the present moment. You have to keep telling yourself to. And I was like, how do I get to a point where I'm actually in it? And not until a few months ago, when I took this course about the mind-body connection for chronic pain, where I really understood the science. I think I think the key is learning how you learn best. Everyone's different. Everyone's wired different. Everyone absorbs things differently. For me, I have to learn the mechanics, the whole technical aspect of everything. And once I got into the science of it and really understood the cause and effect, how it does all the things it does, from lowering blood pressure and actually affects your brain, then it sort of became automatic and a switch went off. And I think that's what led to that wonderful, blissful birthday, because I just, it's like the the sky opened up for me. And it just was happening so much so that I was having a problem getting out of the moment. It's like, oh, Angie, you got to do some things, right? Maybe you can't stay here all day at the park. So I was really looking at everything so differently. And I saw the power, the absolute power of being in the moment. And for me, it took a lot longer to get there. But in my book, I mean, over half the chapters, the women discuss meditation, yoga, mindfulness, all different ways, like be it moving meditation or, meditation in nature, painting, art, creativity. I mean, creativity is meditation. All of it translates to that. And the quieting of the mind, because especially now, my goodness, like Nita, when she started with stillness, and the stillness and the quiet. And that's when you can cleanse everything. And that's when the most ideas and creativity come in. And, you have to quiet it though for a while and let it reset and heal. And I think these are the things that I'm definitely most grateful for, these tools. Like Nita said, I don't know what I would do without it. And I think back to where I was headed before, and it wasn't good without it. So anyway, that's that.
Well, that was beautiful. And I just want to hear, Nita, let me ask you directly, because what I was linking when Angela was talking is that this is just a hypothesis, that it might be nearly impossible not to feel grateful when we're present.
I don't know. I think it's much more likely. I just let me think about it. Hold on a second. I think when I'm fully present, I'm not necessarily aware of gratitude. Gratitude comes second, because the presence is actually the physical sensation of something. And that physical sensation may generate gratitude, but the initial presence, there is no happy, sad, it's just presence. But yes, the second thing, if you have developed, or we have developed our minds in a way that we're not grasping or, trying to push and pull on everything, that then I would say, yes, gratitude is much more likely, that that's what will arise naturally. So yes and no.
I love it. No, I love that.
I hadn't thought of it that way. So thank you for that. That's a very interesting question, because I just hadn't thought of it that way. But that's what comes for me, is that it's sort of the next step, or maybe even the third step.
And I'm super grateful to you for that. That just, I had never thought that link had never happened in my mind before, but yeah. Brenda, did you want to jump in?
I was just really enjoying listening and actually like sort of my own stillness in that moment. And like, I was like, thoughts were floating through my mind, like less is more. And that I think we're acculturated to think we have to like be ready to talk a lot, and that like less talk can be good. Of course, not in Heart Wisdom. We're here to talk. But I was just sort of mulling over the fact that like I was thinking like, where are places where I might be talking needlessly or like saying too much or rushing or trying to fill in silences when maybe the silence is what is needed. So I was inspired by what I was hearing.
And you just inspired me. I just wonder, can we have, whether, I don't know, Nita, if you, I know I'm putting you on the spot.
I don't have a bell. Yeah.
I was just going to say, could we just have a minute of silence?
Yeah, I own a bell. It's not in this room. I'm not getting up to get it. So we can just pretend there's a bell. Yes. Oh, wait. Angela might have one. She's got it. Yay. Yeah, she's got the Tibetan bells. Yeah. Okay. Can I just say something too before I forget? Please. So Angela, I have to ask, just to clarify, did you certify in 2020 or in 2021?
21.
Yeah, but it was as real because so did I. During the
Really?
pandemic, I went, I've been meditating for, I think, probably 25 years at that point, but I'd never gotten formal training. And something about the pandemic, I signed up for a 200-hour session and got certified. So, hey, that is
Oh, I
so cool
love
that we both
that.
have that. I know. And
That
it
is
was,
so special.
I was
I
like, wait a
love
minute,
that.
am I hearing this right? That's so cool. Okay.
That's amazing. Okay. So you want a bell?
Yeah. And will you be our timekeeper too, or do you want me to do it? Well, I guess if you have the bells, you will.
Okay. How long do you want us to be quiet?
That sounded funny.
How long you got? No.
Let's just be wild and crazy creative women. Let's do 2 minutes of silence in the middle of our panel.
Oh, wow.
I know, it's crazy. Wow.
All right. Now let's chat. No.
That was nice. And I think it was brave.
Mm-hmm.
I know. And you know what? I was trying just to meditate and not think, but I did have a thought drop in that what a gift to somebody who just happened to be scrolling through social media and there's just silence. Like Brenda, I love that you inspired that. Yeah.
That was great. That's fantastic. I love the idea of somebody scrolling along and there's just these 4 women sitting there. It's nothing.
Andy Warhol-esque, maybe. Like a mini Andy Warhol.
I love it. We are the art, yes.
We are rebels.
So I want to just ask, I've brought up a couple things that I've been thinking about, when thinking about this panel. What about you guys? Were there other things that you thought, oh, this might be interesting to bring in?
Yeah, I did. I actually, I have been in recovery for a long, long time from some addictions. And when I first went to, the groups to talk about that or to be in their presence, people who weren't practicing the addictions, they would tell me to make a gratitude list. And I was very not grateful. I was very mad. I was very sad. I was all the things, but definitely not grateful. And this one woman said, "What about toilet paper, Nita? How about that?" And I thought, I can't argue with that. And so what it reminded me of was sometimes we have to start simple because some of us are not heart-centered. Okay. Brenda and Sherry, I know, I don't know Angela enough, but I know Brenda and Sherry are very heart-centered people. And so maybe gratitude doesn't come naturally to them, but they really wear it well. And I'm much more of a body-centered person. And so sometimes it takes me a while to get to gratitude. It's there, but I have to unearth it. I'm much more curmudgeon. And so her saying that to me, toothpaste, soap, real simple things that there are people that do not have. And so my thought was, if you're struggling with gratitude, just start with toilet paper because that's hard to not be grateful for. And then the other thing that was, it was so simple, but also kind of not simple was, last night I was coming home from a gathering. And it was about 9 o'clock at night, very dark, very cold here in Central Ohio. Feels like was about 8 degrees. And my tire pressure light came on. And so I stopped at a gas station. There was a lovely guy there. We tried to figure it out. I ended up, even though I supposedly know how to do this, I ended up taking out more air than I was putting in, and he wasn't helping. So I just said, never mind, forget it. I'll just go home. And this morning, I knew there's a tire place that we have bought our tires for years. And I pulled in. And I expected to go in the lobby and check in, all that kind of stuff. They had an air pressure check line where you could just, because the temperatures have just changed here. And that's when tire pressures really go crazy. And I just could feel the gratitude of not having to check, as I had some other stuff I was going to do. I wanted to be doing. And I just got in that line and, I was like the third car in. The guy just, how you doing, ma'am? And he just checked the pressure, put the air in. Within 10 minutes, I was back on the road with my day. And it was just the simplest thing that some business thought of exactly what the customer needed at that time, that I went to that particular place. And, it's very much a first world problem. I own a car. I could have had the money to change tires, things like that, if I needed to, because I was worried that maybe there was a nail or something like that. But it was just this simple thing that they thought, what do our customers need, and provided it elegantly. And so I just left with the biggest smile. There's no charge. It was just, we know you all need this, so here you go. And it was great. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. And those were the things that kind of popped in for me.
That company has emotional intelligence, which I think is very connected to mindfulness and awareness.
Yep.
Yes. That's what I was saying about the simple things, especially when there's so much chaos in the world and around us, and pain and heartache. And then the simple things just become so precious and special, like that, and you really look at things through a different lens. And but I had thought of something before when we were talking about being in the moment, because people have said this to me. Well, what if the moment is horrible? And they're like, what do you do when you're in that moment? Right. And the thing, I want to know what Nita does, and Brenda and Sherry, what you all do, because for me, like, let's say you're getting a root canal and you're scared and you're in that moment. Yes, I breathe, I do all those things, but I have to go to visualization. So I take one of those moments that were so precious to me, like I always have the same go-to, staring into my dog's eyes while lying on the bed and connecting with this beautiful creature and feeling that love. And I always go to that. I don't know why. In the dentist chair, this is what I go to right here. But it's those little simple moments, right? And that's what I do when I'm in those moments. Or let's say when you're in a moment of panic, when I've had a lot of instances where I was trapped in a fire once. I was trapped in my car, an elevator, those moments of panic. That I go right into, you have to start breathing, because that's the first thing that stops for me. And then it's remembering that you will be okay. You're okay at that moment. I, do the tapping, the touching myself. Here I am. I'm here. I'm present. I'm okay. I will be okay. It's more projecting the fear of what will happen, or focusing on the fact that you're, contained or trapped, or, just that's what I do. I'm getting better at it. Thank goodness now. I used to be terrible at it. But what do you all do for that? Like if the moment isn't the greatest moment?
Well, I'm
Yeah,
sort of trying to let somebody else go, but
I was trying to.
oh, well, go ahead, Sherry, because if you have something going.
No, go ahead, Nita. I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, so I think the tools Angela shared are really, really helpful. And for me, at some point, those don't work either. One of my meditation teachers says that there will always come a day in everyone's life where they will be pushed out of a perfectly good plane. That's the bad news. The good news is that you get a parachute. And the not so great news, but could be good news, is that you have to knit the parachute yourself. And so the question is, when do you want to start knitting the parachute, now or when you're on the plane? And so the parachute for me is a very intense mindfulness practice where I'm actually with the negative thoughts, negative body sensations fully. And that not everybody can do. It's a learned skill that takes intense concentration. And I have had 2 teeth pulled this year. And I do not go under anesthesia well. And so I have been fully conscious when that has happened. And that I did have numbing. I mean, they did give me, numb, but I didn't go to sleep. And that is what has saved me, is to just be, notice unpleasant sensation. Often there's pleasant sensation mixed with unpleasant sensation, and feeling where I feel it in my body, because even though they're working on my teeth, that's numb, but sometimes I feel it in my shoulder. I feel it in my ear. I feel, someplace else, and noticing where else I'm feeling things. But I always start with, can I visualize something? Can I chant? Can I sing a song in my head? Can I bring up a memory? And a lot of times those things work. It's a way to turn away from the experience and find something pleasant, find something helpful. Great tools. And for me, sometimes those don't work, and I have to actually be completely present with what's happening, which, yeah, sometimes it's not fun. But it's a skill set. It's all a skill set. The visualization, the chanting. I mean, I have a friend who takes her mala beads, the Tibetan wooden beads. It's kind of like a rosary. And she will sit there anytime she's in a dentist chair, she will sit there and count the mala beads and all of that, all of those tools. But yeah, this year it was, well, what does having a tooth pulled feel like? Which was, I mean, it doesn't sound fun. I know it doesn't sound fun, but it really worked. And I could not have done that 5 years ago. There's no way. They would have had to completely knock me out. But the problem is that the anesthesia doesn't, I either can't wake up, or I'm not ever fully asleep. And it's gotten to the point where I can't really do it. So I had to find other ways, and that's what I did.
Nita, I love that we're all like, because I went there too with the tooth pulling, and I don't get put under for other reasons, but I went to almost the same place you did, a little bit different, which is, it is such a practice of trying to just be, because I know when I used to get extreme migraines, I would do that, just really allow myself to just kind of like, because we all know this, when you focus on it, it does shift and change. It's not what our mind tells us. But when I'm in the dentist chair with that, tooth pulling, process, one of the things that I like, when you said, focused on other things, like focus on like the feel of the hand and thinking, like, wow, I have this professional who really cares and knows what he's doing, or, focusing on, there is love there in the room. I'm not, I've heard stories of awful things where people have, had teeth wrenched out of them. And this is not the case for me. So, but I do think there's something about that, about when we actually allow ourselves, and grief is the same way. I think probably anyone who's gone through grief has known too. It's like, it feels like I can't go there because I'll never come out. And yet sometimes I've sat in a bathtub just crying. And then it's like, an hour later, I'm like, oh, I don't know, there's just a different feeling.
Yeah, because it's so important to process those emotions. It is. You don't want to shove them down because then they'll still be there for sure. I love what Nita said. I love the parachute story.
I know.
That is great. And yeah, I mean, it definitely is important to realize your emotions and feelings and acknowledge it and be in it. I think we all have a common bond of not really liking the dentist.
We haven't heard from Brenda. I'm pretty sure.
Brenda,
I know she said some. I have had emails with her about dentists, but anyway, I'll let her share that.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any dental trauma of recent moments, but I was just gonna say that I don't make every move a meditation, but I make many of them, and for me, walking is like sort of the best mindfulness practice, and I've added to it in the last year, I think, like really noticing like flowers and trees and shrubs and things like that, and what do I really like and why am I drawn to it? Is that the color, like just trying to just and so it's sort of becoming like a bit of a nature meditation too, but also sometimes walking, like I can work out problems too. There's two different sets of walking, but like even like one time I had like a real struggle with a title with a book. The author, sometimes the best authors come in with the worst titles, and when I see a terrible title, sometimes I'm like, ooh, maybe this is going to be a really great book because that title is bad. And, so like, but you also have to come up with a title that the author is happy with and all this and that, right? Ideally, everybody should love the title. So I went for a walk around like I actually walked like probably like around like 10 blocks or something. And then finally I had a eureka moment about the title. And it was Mark Nepo's book, The Book of Awakening. And like the title and the subtitle and even like the package of the book, like it's a chopped D, which is a very unusual tall trim size. And like I knew exactly how the book needed to be organized, and I organized it and edited it and everything. And then like it was very successful. Like in the first year, it probably sold like 30,000 copies, which is great and hard to do. But then something magical happened. Oprah's yoga teacher thought Oprah would really like that book and gave it to her for her birthday present.
Wow.
And then Oprah made it her ultimate favorite thing, like on her last like month of the show, I think, right before the holidays. And it sold like 400,000 copies in 1 week, and then went on to sell like crazy amounts. Like, I mean, I think at this point it's probably sold like 4 million copies. And that all came, I mean, I know that I know that her yoga teacher just really loved the title. And then like, and the fact that like, Oprah still talks about it being one of her favorite books and posts on social about it. And I think like, yeah, I'm good. Like every day, like Oprah Winfrey like gets up and like reads from the book that I organized and I titled and I shaped and everything. But it all came from me walking around the block and just like being open to like what came in. And so like anytime I need to process something, I hit the street.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's what
proud moments for sure. But like you guys are proud moments for me as well. Will continue to be.
Well, it's what I was saying earlier with the most creative ideas and the most prolific I've gotten is after or during, be it. Oh, am I still with you? Because I have nothing on my screen.
We can hear you.
Okay.
You're frozen, but we can hear you.
There I am. has been after, be it walks in nature, the meditation practice of some sort of clearing the mind. It's sort of like when you take a shower. I don't know if any of you have had that, where you're in the shower, and there are times when I'm in there, I'm just enjoying the warm up, and then all of a sudden, boom, the greatest idea. And I've dripped across my living room, looking for my pad of paper, like, I just had the greatest idea. And it's that same concept where you just shut it all off. So you
Shower is the phone booth to goddess.
Yes.
Oh, you guys, I wish we could keep going because I feel like we're just entering some wonderful fertile land right now. But
what a perfect place to end.
In the shower.
Yes. I'm sure Angela has a very nice HGTV approved shower.
No, that's one thing I don't. Everything else is pretty good, but that's the last thing we need to take care of.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. What a joy to be with you three. Thank you so much. I personally loved this conversation. I feel like we got to touch into a lot of places. There's a lot more we could go. We could do a part 2, I think. So thank you. Talk about gratitude. I'm just looking at your faces right now, and thank you for being here. And thank you to anyone who was watching with us live or will watch the replay. We're grateful for you too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mwah. See you on the next Heart Wisdom panel.
Mm-hmm.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.